Janae, good evening to you. Last summer, and these are stats that are tracked, 184 individuals were unsheltered. So that meant they spent their nights under bridges. They lived in the woods, or maybe even a place like this, a bench here in downtown Des Moines. The numbers are likely higher this year, which is why the city of Des Moines is taking action. And today we caught up with a man here in Des Moines living in the woods, one of nearly 200 right now, with no intention of moving into a shelter, even if they do have room for him. Tucked along the banks of the Raccoon River,
it's a hole, it's opening up in the ground at the bottom of what looks like a pyramid.
Joshua Woodworth is right at home.
I came back to Iowa about 10 years ago, and I've just been kind of stuck along this hill ever since.
He and several neighbors have taken up residence in the woods. A few others look like they've recently left. A new sign posted along the tree line south of Grand Avenue may explain why.
It means some new time frames of some of our ordinances that are going to ask people to go to the shelter rather than continually make camps on our sidewalk, streets, and other places.
It's not about punitive.
This past Monday, the Des Moines City Council passed new rules to an existing ordinance regarding camping on publicly owned property, bridges, or viaducts. People found in violation must vacate the location immediately, have personal items removed within 24 hours, and could be subject to a $50 fine, down from the previous $120 penalty.
So we're trying to make sure that there's a process in place, and we take the time to make sure that we collect people's possessions, that they're made available to them, and that they don't lose what they had if they're willing to go to the shelters and seek services.
This is my shelter, you know, this is earth and, you know, what we have, so I don't need nothing else.
As you can probably tell, Joshua is going to need a lot more convincing.
To me, it's easier. I don't have to afford anybody my time, effort, energy, anything I don't want. It's all about what I want, and I feel that's how you're supposed to live, you know? The whole normal thing just doesn't fit me.
A second major obstacle is where people like Joshua can go when they're told to vacate a campsite. Data collected by Homeward Iowa shows the number of safe haven, transitional housing, emergency shelter, and unsheltered people in Des Moines has climbed from January of 2019 to record numbers in 2024. Joshua represents 147 people who live outside. And right now, most area shelters are at or near capacity.
They better have a spot for us to go, otherwise I'm just going to find the nearest coolest spot I can and be right up here.
After spending some time visiting along the bank, the 35-year-old shared something special that may be the key to get him to reconsider.
I don't know what the better answer is. I just know what works for me.
You have people that are worried about you think at home or wherever home is?
I'm sure.
What would you like them to know?
I miss them.
Outreach and connection is a part of the new program, trying to connect those people like Joshua to his family. Maybe that could be that next step to getting him off and out of the woods and into a shelter, get his life back on track. So if they wanted to get everybody off the streets right now, the goal, the estimate from these groups, they would need 500 beds in these shelters to be able to do so. Councilman Coleman did say there are 3 construction projects right now. Jopa's got one, Hope Ministries has one, the city of Des Moines also revitalizing an old hotel along Merle Hay. Each one is about 40 beds or so. So the need is still outpacing what we have for supply, Janae. And again, the next reading here in a couple weeks, a little less than 2 weeks for this new ordinance. And I could tell you, Janae, just behind me across the road over at the library, there are some folks bedding down for the night, both on the benches and on the grass, as the problem is still being addressed here in the city of Des Moines. Reporting live, Elias Johnson. Send it back to you.
In Chad Hitzman's world, these are the sounds of the season.
Got a big meal coming up. My motto is work sharper, not harder.
This is his busiest time of the year.
Happy cutting. Thank you. You bet, thank you.
Getting us ready to carve some holiday roasts.
It's nothing to sharpen 50 knives a day, you know?
Looking the part in his overalls and flat cap, Hitzman takes in our tools and returns their edges.
If you liked it when you bought it, you're going to like it better after I sharpen it, because there's nothing you're going to buy that's going to be as sharp as when I sharpen it.
Tools from the kitchen to the garden, the common to the fantastic, all are familiar in Hitzman's hands.
I'd always had an interest in knives as a kid growing up, so when I saw an ad in the paper for a sharpening shop, I thought in my mind, man, that might be kind of a cool job.
He spent most of his career in a factory sharpening industrial tools, then went off on his own. Then, 3 years ago this week, he took a chance on himself.
I was sharpening for the dog groomer next door one time and saw this shop was open, and I thought, man, that'd be a great spot for me.
The spot has done more than give Hitzman a location in the community. It's given a path to join it.
I hear a good review on a restaurant that I've sharpened for. I feel part of that. A hairstylist, you know, that did somebody famous's hair while they were in town, you know, and I've sharpened their shears, you know. I feel like I'm part of everything going on.
And so, like the rest of us this week, Chad Hitzman is feeling thankful for his small space in the world, for his ability to make a bit of it better. If you find him there, you might be thankful too. In West Des Moines, Andy Fales, WHO 13 News. A day that ended with something unforgettable began the same way. A grown man in a Darth Vader costume walking the aisles of the tailgate lots for seemingly no reason at all.
As of 9 o'clock that morning, the only plan we had was, wouldn't it be funny if Darth Vader was standing there with the black Iowa State flag when the team bus goes by?
But it was the other fans who really ate it up. Countless selfies. His wife told him, don't stop.
And I was like, well, where'd I go? And she's like, just go walk around. And for 2 hours, I just walked around. And
by the time he was done, the man had gone viral.
so there are
3.5 million views.
Yes, 17,000 likes.
He was the talk of the tailgate, if not for the costume, for the story that was behind it.
Every time I put the costume on in some way, it's just sort of for me as a personal way to remember Carson. It's almost like something fun that we do together.
The man is Troy DeJody, and maybe that rings a bell.
I was driving home from work and I got a phone call and a woman said, this is the house nurse at Mercy. Are you driving? And I said yes, and she said, I need you to pull over.
We remembered the scene in Ankeny. A speeding truck had run a stop sign and smashed into a minivan.
I knew it was bad. I didn't know how bad.
Inside the minivan was Troy's family. 2 of his 3 children, 5-year-old Carson and 5-month-old Claire, were killed. 3-year-old Chase somehow survived.
When he finally asked, where's Carson, where's Sissy, you know, I just told him.
We covered the heartbreaking trial where the driver of the truck was sent home, and the family's road to recovery as they campaigned on behalf of the Iowa Organ Donor Network. But then life settled down, at least until this month, when the memories of Carson stirred with the autumn leaves.
He loved Halloween.
It was one of Carson's things, along with Star Wars and Iowa State football. The Post gave Troy the chance to explain.
And my wife was like, you know, people really need to know, like, why this is. Why do you do this? What is, you know, and that's when I wrote the Twitter thread.
His words gave the Post a second wind. Readers responded with stories of their own.
And that's kind of when I was like, okay, like, this is really sort of even more special.
It was a story Troy DeJody had told too many times, but somehow one we needed to hear again, to be reminded, to capture random moments for whatever reason, to celebrate the life we have and those we've left behind. In Nevada, Andy Fales, WHO 13 News. Thank God this video exists.
You betcha.
Without it, the stories of Bammy's Pizza would be impossible to believe. Frank Bammy Bonanno was part restaurateur, part provocateur.
Run it out there! Oh, let's get him out! Run it out there!
They used to call him the fourth Marx brother.
He'd throw you a rag and tell you to clean your own table.
Clean your own table too, buddy. Clean the table, shorty.
Take a bite out of their pizza, like he's bringing their pizza out. He goes, that looks good, and he'd take a bite out of their pizza that they just ordered.
The antics weren't for everyone. but the pizza was.
We would have it every Friday night religiously.
As far as I was concerned, the best pizza in town.
Bammies closed in the 80s, but has sprung back to life this month. Ron Bonanno had waited for years to bring back his dad's recipe and felt the time was finally right.
When you remake anything, the way you have to get it exactly the way it was, especially when you're dealing with food.
The challenge was perfect for the likes of Tony Lemo and George Famaro, star chefs and Bammy fans with old-school pedigrees. Famaro helped resurrect the recipe, and Lemo pushed aside his Gusto pizza to give it a temporary home.
I had to remove my entire kitchen, dry storage, my coolers, to make it a Bammy's restaurant. It's insane.
And judging by the crowds, it's an insane hit. It's been full every day, full of Bammy's fans jumping at the chance for a reconnection.
It was a staple for a long time.
Everybody's talking to each other even though they've never met before because they all have a story and they're bursting to tell somebody.
And like the pizza orders, those stories just keep coming.
A guy came up and ordered 4 beers. He gives him the beers, and then he yells at Frank and he says, "Hey, we need the table wiped off," and Frank threw him the dish rag. And the guy didn't like that and he threw it back at him. Frank said, "Drink your beers and go."
Everybody dug. Oh, God darn it, got the wrong guy.
It was the greatest experience you'd ever have, going to a restaurant and having a good time.
You had to have a little heart to go in there, but after you got to know my dad, he was the most lovable person you ever met.
Frank Bammy Bonanno, his wide-crusted pizza, and the good times they guarantee. They're alive and well again in Des Moines.
If I can keep it alive a little bit longer for him, that's my goal.
On Ingersoll Avenue, Andy Fales, WHO 13 News.
Imagine every day of your job surrounded by the unknown.
You always plan for the worst and just hope for the best. For years, we were taught to suck it up. If this bothers you, you're in the wrong business.
And at the end of each shift, you go back home and search for a way back to normal.
You don't want to bring it home to your families because sometimes they just can't handle it.
Until something happens.
Don't make me do it, please.
When I got home, it just I saw my wife and I was kind of in shock up until the time I got home. And it was like, this is the time where I turn it off and I don't think about it. And it was kind of the opposite.
And normal is never the same.
Like it was almost more overwhelming, because at times I didn't know if I was going home.
Everything changed for Zachary Anderson on April 9th, 2019. As a Grundy County Sheriff's deputy, Anderson responded to the home of Michael Lang in Grundy Center. Lang fled from a traffic stop after assaulting a police officer and threatened to hurt others. A team led by Iowa State Patrol Sergeant Jim Smith made entry into the home where Lang emerged from a room armed with a shotgun. He fired 2 shots, one fatally wounding Sergeant Smith. Deputy Anderson's body camera captured the entire event.
Really hard for me just moving forward with my job, and because I had a lot of a lot of questions like, can I go back to work? Can I, how do I do this? How do I, how is this going to affect me mentally, emotionally, doing the job?
He found those answers 2 days later while sitting in a circle.
DCI peer sport team was there. They would talk to people individually. We all talked as a group. Everyone took their turns. And the best thing is nobody ever said, I know what you're going through. It was like, I know you're going through a lot, or I can't imagine what you're thinking about. Not, I know what you're going through. No, and because not many did, or not many do.
These are normal responses to a very abnormal event. These are things that shouldn't happen.
DCI Special Agent Kristen Katros and her partner.
This is Matt. Oh, he looked like he just about got up.
He's got a badge on and everything.
He does.
Traveled the state leading crisis debrief sessions for first responders after critical incidents as part of the Department of Public Safety's peer support program. She led the discussion after Sergeant Smith's death, and today is preparing to speak with members from DPS who responded to the Perry School shooting in January.
having that understanding that everybody sitting around that circle, they experience that too. And they start to hear, okay, you know, these responses, I'm not the only one that felt this way. This other person that, you know, I highly respect, I see that they are feeling the same way, and it's okay.
Do these meetings get emotional?
Yes, yeah.
But it's one of the important aspects of these debriefings. According to the CDC, firefighters and police officers are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty, while those who choose to cope in silence are more at risk to develop substance abuse issues and anger problems.
You look at the numbers of suicides in our industry, or the cops who tank their careers and their families because they fall into substance abuse and they're looking for the answer at the bottom of a bottle. Having some place to go and actually wear those emotions on your sleeve is so important in our business.
Since 2008, the Des Moines Police Department has relied on its own peer support program. All officers have an app on their phone with 24/7 access to trained professionals, an outlet Sergeant Paul Parisic knows the value of firsthand.
Probably the hardest experience in my career was when Tony was murdered. I mean, he was a friend of mine. We were on the same squad. He was so well respected and just loved around our building. I don't know how to even get started with some of that stuff, you know.
Thankfully, peer support professionals like Special Agent Katros and Matt do, and it shows.
We're seeing more and more people reaching out. We're seeing more and more people trusting the program. That is a really good indicator for us that we're moving in the right direction.
Today, Zachary Anderson splits his time as a firefighter and police officer with Cedar Falls Public Safety, with the confidence to do whatever the job requires and peace of mind. He'll have someone to talk to when he needs them.
What was it like for you personally going through that session?
I don't know, like, had we not had that, how I'd have probably done.
Can you put it on?
When you're raising a little boy like Malachi, life changes fast.
Yay!
He's 16 months old.
Oh no. More? You want to do more?
Full of spunk.
Where are your feet? There they are! There they are!
And the 7th little boy Chelsea Adams has taken care of in the last 7 years. Some were with her for more than a year, others for just a few days. That's a lot of change.
But yeah, when they leave, it's a weird kind of grief.
As a foster mom, she knows no time is promised.
Open them, shut them, open them, shut them.
How hard is it to say goodbye?
It's devastating. It's devastating to say goodbye. These kids become a part of your family. They become a part of your heart. And they'll never not be a part of my heart. These 7 kiddos that I've had will always have a piece of my heart. And they will always be my kids or my sons.
And from the beginning, this one was different.
He was 2.5 weeks old when I got his placement phone call. It came at 11 o'clock at night, which is unusual.
At first, she said no. Then she said for a few days.
So for the next about 5 days, every single day, I talk to placement matching, and they're trying to find a placement. Then for 5 days, they're trying to find a placement. And in that time period, of course, I am falling in love with this little boy, as you would with any 2.5-week-old little boy.
So the days are ticking by.
Yes. So the days are ticking by, and I'm talking to my boss and just saying, hey, this is where I'm at. Like, this is my life right now. And he goes, well, I mean, you can just bring him to school with you. We won't have kids for a month later. And I was like, really? Okay. Fantastic.
So those few days turned into a few months, and a few months turned into more than a year. 492 days to be exact. And that's when everything changed.
I've always described being a foster mom as a verb, not a noun. I'm mom, but I'm not mom. For 2,444 days and 7 little boys, I've done all the typical mom things. Yesterday, nothing changed, but also everything changed. My childhood dreams of becoming a mom, the noun kind, came true in an unexpected way. In a courtroom, I was given the best gift, the gift of a little boy I've loved for 492 days, and now forevermore get to call my own.
On adoption day, it became official.
Mama.
Chelsea became Mom, the noun kind.
Mama.
And even Malachi seems to know the difference.
Mama.
Hello.
Right on cue.
Yeah, good word, baby.
Yeah, that is Mama.
You know, God always has this huge plan for our lives, and we don't know what it is. And if God's plan for my life is to love all these kids that He puts in my home, forever short or however long, it's a huge, immense blessing to get to serve as their mom for a short time.
Or in this case, forever.
But do not let them in. There isn't a lot that changed in our day-to-day life, but the fact that it's a forever life now is what changed, and that's the joyful part.
Mama.
Yes, Mama. So glad you know the word.